in this case in Saudi Arabia, we have coordinators, like I said, or supervisors, or managers to follow up on these cases. But if the response time has not been recorded well, or it has not been handled well, that may also cause a death in case it is an health issue that has not been addressed within the specific time. So there are very many reasons why that happens. So Robert, for me, I wouldn't want to say that it is entirely intentional. No. Thirdly, we have good, rather, fifth point, we have good and bad apples in any country. If your employer is not doing what they're supposed to do, adhering to the contract clauses and terms and conditions, then the law should take its course. But the enforcement in this country of destination may not be that strong. So the conversation should be the Uganda government and the Saudi government, how do we enforce breaches in these contracts?
Now, Asher, this brings me to ask you.
Right.
We have over about 228 registered companies that are handling labor externalization in Uganda. But when I look at what comes in specifically from Saudi Arabia and domestic workers, is over 900 million US dollars. From the Middle East alone. From the Middle East.
Right.
That is annually.
Right.
Fellow Ugandans, this is a lot of money. Actually, I was looking at government's earnings, and this is one of the areas that brought in more money than even tourism. More money than even all other sources.
Number one.
So that means we as a country are earning so much from these girls. And it's only prudent enough that we do what it takes to improve their welfare. As recruiting agencies, in my simple understanding and experience into following issues in this business, I want to commend you as recruitment agencies. You've done something recommendable when it comes to having attaches in Saudi Arabia. But these are only people of a company. To me, I believe the magic bullet would be government of Uganda having its attaches there. As agreed in 2017. That government of Uganda would have attaches there. Why haven't you pushed for this? Because you make money even on these job orders. Government of Uganda, I think, last made about 2 billion shillings. Just
7 billion in about 4 months.
In about 4 months.
Internally here on job orders.
It's a lot of money. Why haven't we seen your voices saying government compelling you with bringing a lot of money, though it goes to the consolidated fund, but prioritize us. You can't continue milking a cow. Why are you not feeding it?
Robert, actually, thank you for that. And truth of the matter is that we are agitating for that. And we've done our part. We said, okay, look, this is what we believe is going to help us. Secondly, if you remember last year in August, yes, the cabinet passed a resolution that we should have labor attaches at the embassy of Saudi Arabia, our embassy in Saudi Arabia. But for me, that is not enough. We need to have labor officers. In the Philippines, they have what they call overseas labor office in each country where they deploy their migrant workers. We need such a thing. Someone who understands labor, international labor. They're going to follow up on cases. In case there is an issue here and there, there is a toll-free line where cases that have not been able to be handled by the companies well, they're escalated to this particular office. Then it liaises with the embassy, and they engage the government in Saudi Arabia. So there should be channels like that. And for me, I think that is what we're lacking at the moment. We've done everything, yes, but we need to emphasize and we need to make sure that we go that way. If we don't, we shall be moving in circles, and for me, what happened yesterday at the Saudi embassy was a very unfortunate incident, because truth of the matter is that this is diplomacy. If things like that happen, don't be surprised, Robert, if Saudi Arabia effects a ban on all migrant workers from Uganda. Don't be surprised. It's very possible. Yeah. So we need to know how to handle. Yes, we are aggrieved. Yes, we have issues. Yes, we are angry. But this is not a Ugandan issue only. But can we use the formal channels through Ministry of Foreign Affairs and we make our case And secondly, we should also be aware that we don't just do this with Saudi Arabia. No, the government of Uganda, I'm sure, does other things with the government of Saudi Arabia. So the bilateral relations should be thought through before we do certain things, Robert.
Now, also, one of the areas I want us to look into, early this year, I saw the Minister for Gender, Labour and Social Development,
right,
Honorable Betty Amongi, while addressing the stakeholders.
Right.
She also had a visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Right.
And when she came back, she mentioned something very critical. She said, labor companies, it's now a must that when a contract of a domestic worker ends, you should bring them back home.
Right.
Because our viewers must know that most of these incidents that we are reporting as media and social media and are covering, these are young girls who go into these houses on a 2-year basis contract.
Right.
Now the contract expires and under the laws in this contract, they must return home.
Right.
So they don't return home, they either find their ways of extending their contracts or staying, and the people having them now know that there's nothing binding between the two states.
Right.
And when these problems happen, Ashi says, we took the girl, yes, she went from Njazi, just using as a case point. She went through Njazi for 2 years, her contract was done with us. So how far have you gone as far as ensuring that every domestic worker that goes, every young girl that goes, at the completion of her contract, returns to Uganda to be protected under the law in case she wants to go back?
Right. Thank you, Robert. One thing is that we sensitize all our migrant workers on this particular contract, and their next of kin as well. We do that. Secondly, our partnering office or offices in Saudi Arabia, they also sensitize these employers in this particular contract. But what normally happens sometimes is that, of course, there is breach. You know, as someone says, okay, the contract has expired. Well, me and my employer, we agree on, on having our own agreement now. Let me say 6 months. And then in the course of 6 months, if something goes wrong, Robert, the Minister of Gender and Labour Social Development right here is going to contact me and say, you know what, there's an issue. This migrant worker says your company took her, for example. Now, for me, it's a very tricky situation because if the contract expires, you're supposed to come back home. And that's what the contract says. And actually, your employer is supposed to buy you an exit ticket and also work on you all the immigration requirements to have you back in Uganda. For us, we can only inform them, remind them of what is supposed to be done. But they can be stubborn and decide not to do that. Now, that is where the other office I'm talking about comes in, Robert. Because it's in Saudi Arabia, it can effect. It can effect. For us is to notify them and they effect that exit. Now, are you seeing, Robert, that that is a very tricky situation for us? Because by law, you cannot remove someone as a recruitment agency in Uganda. You cannot. So that is what we do. And if they divert away from that, then they remain in the hands of the government of Saudi Arabia. If something goes wrong, or if they are arrested, they're answerable to the government there. So Robert, that is why I'm saying that we need to push. We need to have presence in Saudi Arabia if we're to fight most of these issues. Without that, it will only be a song, Robert.
How are we going to address the challenge of girls escaping from places where they go to work? Houses where you and their sponsors or your counterparts in the other, because this is also becoming a common tendency. And recently there was a lady who was deported. She was deported by the government of Saudi Arabia. She came back to Uganda because she had made it a habit. That you notify her, then she will ensure that she finds ways of stealing you from that house, either taking them to earn better, and there were some claims that others into prostitution. So how do we address, because this is one of the things that the government of Saudi Arabia actually, I was trying to read through some documents, say that Uganda, why they are almost getting fed up of us, is Ugandan girls have made it a habit of escaping.
Right. Robert, I must tell you that that is a very, very, very big issue we are facing. And truth of the matter is that most of these migrant workers that run away, they have different reasons, Robert. Some are genuine reasons, and maybe there's been a delay on the response from the company there and stuff like that. But it does not resolve your issue, and that's what we normally tell them. It makes the issue worse. You rather go and hand yourself to police. If you decided to run away, it's better you hand yourself to police. You're taken to the removal center and processed. Because the police has the capacity to call your employer and question them. If this person is claiming they've been mistreated and all these things, the police can handle that. And then that case is forwarded for further management. But when you run away and you don't report to police, you're on your own. Okay? Then secondly, others run away, just like how you've mentioned, because they are promised a better pay, and that better pay, in most cases, like you've mentioned, is in prostitution and stuff like that. And that is risky. Anything can go wrong. So because of exactly that, for us, our job is simple. Sensitize them. And make them understand that the laws of the land in Saudi Arabia will actually catch up with you if you do not adhere to them. If you run away from the house, if you have a genuine reason, go to police. And police will be able to handle. But when you run away and you go your way, you go to these brothels and stuff like that, of course the repercussions are very clear. So Robert, for me, still, I go back to my point. If there is an extra remedy of government besides the Saudi embassy, maybe they will be running there. And their issues will be handled. But also, is to sensitize Ugandans. Please, once you go to a foreign country, follow the rules, make sure you follow the law. Once you go outside the law, the repercussions are very, very heavy. And in a foreign land where you don't even speak the language, where some of them are from different religious backgrounds, the situation can be very, very tricky. So Robert, for me, is sensitization and presence of labor officers in Saudi Arabia. That is one of that's what I believe will help us solve these issues, Robert.
Well, our viewers, you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by simply going to our social media platforms, and the number will be on your screen where you can send us a WhatsApp message on the number. It's coming up on your screen, or a text message. So we'll be able to communicate, and of course Ashe will be giving you feedback. That is a 0709 60 25 92. The number is 0709 60 25 92, and we'll be responding to all your questions. You can send us an SMS message, the traditional SMS on that number, or you can send us a WhatsApp message on that number, as we are still looking at externalization of labor, and we look at the health and safety of immigrant workers. Now also, Ashe, let's look at the communication process, because we've had claims that these girls, their mobile phones are removed from them, so they can't communicate. We've heard that these girls have no any other form of remedy. It's like modern slavery. You get there, you're taken to this person's house, then boom, maybe you wait for the grace of God to see you through that struggling, that storm for that 2 years, and if you're lucky, you go back home. What are the communication? How easy, and how are they protected? Because communication is key. You're talking about talk to the company that brought you. But in case I don't have any communication gadget, what do I do? How do you ensure that there is frequent communication? Sometimes relatives tell you that we used to communicate with her, but now we can't. Others will tell you, since she went, we can't communicate to them.
Right. Robert, thank you very much for that. And I want to make this categorically clear, Robert. This is a tripartite, if I may say. It's the Ugandan agency, it's the next of kin, it's the migrant worker. So if the next of kin reports that we've not heard from so-and-so in 2 weeks, it's incumbent upon us to communicate to our Saudi partners through our supervisors we've deployed there. to reach out to this particular employer. Employer X, where the family of so-and-so has reported they've not heard from her in the last 2 weeks. Kindly, we want to speak to her. And then the supervisor speaks to the candidate, or rather to this migrant worker, and they find out what is the problem. The family is saying they've not heard from you the last 2 weeks. What is going on? In most cases, I don't have Wi-Fi. Yes, like you've mentioned, they removed my phone from me. And our issue there, and our solution there, is to remind the employer of their responsibility, but also the rights of this Ugandan migrant worker, and also remind them of the penalties and the repercussions of those actions. Because in our negotiations, way back when we were signing the bilateral agreement, someone has to have their phone. That was actually agreed upon by the two governments. Someone has to have their phone. If it's removed from them, that is a breach, Robert. And for us, that's how we find out, and that's how we resolve these issues. And it has worked, Robert. If you can't get hold of this person, you call the employer, and they know what the law says. I want Ugandans to understand that these people are not above the law. And I must tell you, Robert, they fear the law more than many Ugandans here. I'm telling you, Robert. So, for us, that is the approach. And it has worked for us. Yes, these cases happen. Then they say, oh, they removed Wi-Fi from me and stuff like that. Then we engage the employer. Please, this is wrong. You're not supposed to do that. The rules are very clear. You're supposed to do A, B, C, D, and resolve them. So, Robert, that's how we communicate. And that is why we normally check on the next of kins here in Uganda as well. Do you hear from so-and-so? Monthly, quarterly, or stuff like that, to ensure that we do our checks and balances on both sides. Yes, Robert.
That brings me to another related question. I've had a number of interactions with some of these girls that have returned to Uganda. Some under duress, have had those very depressed, the depression. Others even connecting. I think they have got some mental problems, though I must have also had very successful stories. But one of the things that I hear from these girls is they usually tell me that even when you want to come back, the situation is so tough on you. Maybe the home you went, there's so much work than you expected. You cannot catch up with this. Maybe you're being mistreated. When you call the company and tell them, guys, I can no longer handle. Either I'm not feeling fine, I'm forced to work. Either the workload is so much for me, because it could be, They'll tell you, if you've lost interest in working, then pay us the money that was invested in you so that we can bring you back home. And the girl told me, they asked me for 3.5, 2.5. I left Uganda coming from a poor background. Even if you told them to look for this money, that I have to pay this money to come back. So what happens? You're sick, you're working, you're under this situation. At the end of the day, that's why we come back and we have to hide for about 2 or 3 months so that you rebuild your body, you look good again. Then you can come out to the public. So what must be done?
Right. Robert, first of all, the contracts these migrant workers sign, every company ensures that they're sensitized on what they're signing. These contracts are not company to company just. These contracts were agreed upon by the two governments through their relevant ministries of labor, and all the clauses were agreed upon by the two governments. And one of the things in there is that if you terminate your contract, you as a migrant worker, you're supposed to compensate your employer with 2 months' salary. If your employer terminates the contract, they're supposed to compensate you 1 month salary. It's as simple as that. So we shouldn't pretend ignorance of the law. Secondly, we're supposed to agree that if I'm signing for this, I know the repercussions. And that's why we take our time to sensitize these migrant workers, both in English and our other local languages, so that they fully understand what they're getting into. But yes, Robert, I hear you. You'll find such cases. And to be honest with you, I cannot talk for every company, but I will tell you something. For me at Njazi, I don't waste time with such people. I touch my pocket, have them back in Uganda. Because I have a brand to protect, I have very many things to handle. So you don't waste time on such people. You know this person, yes, despite taking them for training, doing all the necessary, you know. I mean, you have to realize that, yes, somewhere, somehow, you're dealing with human beings, and anything is possible. So for me, at Njazi, I just return them home, Robert, and that is it. Because I don't want, you know, unnecessary delays on that and the other. Return them home. Forget it. Yes.
So you stomach the losses there, because this is not voluntary, it's also a business. But also, Ashe, I want us to look at something very critical. And I think the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, you rightly said we should have attaches or government officials there.
Right.
Is much as these girls sign these contracts, but I'm reliably informed, and I've spoken to some of them who I know even before leaving Uganda, they were very much of hard working. But they'll tell you that the companies that take us there must understand the nature of families in Saudi Arabia. One told me, you're taken to a home and you think it's the Uganda setting. You have a father, you have a mother, there are 3, 5 children, you know, it's washing dishes, cleaning the house and all that. But this girl, the girl tells you, I go on a flat. There are about 8 families, but in one. The son has a stall. Then the next flat, there is maybe another family. So I'm working in 3 families, but being believed to be working in 1 family. Tells you, Robert, the workload then becomes so much for me. I want to tell you, we went with so and so, and you see even their chats on social media. Banange, first some take small shots showing. One will tell me uses the word, me, I'm lucky, my family. It's just a husband, a wife, and 2 children. Other says, but for me, and when you look at some come up and really you're like, yeah, you've been making money, you look good. Others, they're like like a pencil, very thin, lost weight, looking very funny. So do you go to ascertain what nature, what work, are we just taking it plain that these are domestic workers, they have gone to work in homes, and Saudi or Arab families have that setting as well?
Right, Robert, thank you very much. First of all, Robert, these contracts are sent from Saudi to us, and it indicates how many family members. It clearly indicates. So we shouldn't claim ignorance there. It indicates. Secondly, yes, if you look at their homes, it is true, but 8, Robert, that is a bit on the higher side, maybe 3 or 4, okay? And during training, they are taught on how to handle. You're not supposed to clean the whole building in one day. No. You have a timetable, you have a rota, okay? When you're supposed to do what? Because you also know, you're a human being, you can't do everything in one day. No, you can't, Robert. And you see, if you're forced to do that, then that's wrong and it's a breach. Such a person is supposed to report to their office, and then their employer is engaged. That is why we have coordinators, supervisors, managers there, Ugandans, to handle such queries, such complaints. That is the whole point, Robert. But when you decide to just go to social media and say that, I mean, are you reporting in the to the right people?
Crying out loud,
yes.
Crying out loud for any
yes.
person who could give you this confusion.
Talk to your office. If your office is not responding, through your next of kin, go to the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and report. Believe me, the ministry will bring to order that company. It's as simple as that. When you go to social media and you say all these things, unfortunately, people don't realize that this is affecting our bilateral relations. And in the long run, like before, Robert, you realize that I don't want to divulge into other business things that are happening. Robert, you may not know, but even visas now, they're not issued the way they used to be issued. I'm telling you this. So people are not seeing this. But before you know it, even the $900 million from the Middle East you're talking about may dwindle to about $300 million if we're not careful. Because I can see this happening. So we need to sort ourselves out. We need to clean up and know where to report. If you have a query, a complaint, know where to report. If your employer is mistreating you, know where to report. Secondly, Robert, when these employers go to our partnering companies in Saudi Arabia, they are told, they are sensitized in the contract, they are told what is expected, and yes, not everyone that walks in is given an opportunity to have, a domestic worker in their home. No, some are rejected. They go through an interview as well. You don't just walk in and they say, okay, we shall do this. No, checks and balances are done. And in the end, some are rejected, of course, and those that are considered to be worthy of having a domestic worker in their home, yes, they're given that opportunity. But if there are breaches, the repercussions are also there. Yes.
Well, viewers, you can be part of the topic of discussion this morning by simply going to our social media platforms. That is on our Twitter page, on our WhatsApp number, which is on your screen, 0709602592. Send me an SMS message or a WhatsApp message, and I will be reading it out, and Asha will be responding to that. Like the few that have come in, I have, this is Prince from Nakasongola. I will call you back. Okay, well, since you said I know you, then better use my private number. Then now, Chris Entebe Bugaki Chenjojo. Doesn't Uganda have an embassy in Saudi Arabia? If so, why it could have been easy for our boys and girls to report there? If you have an embassy there, why didn't we see these people report there?
Right.
Then someone is asking, hello, good morning, what is the salary being paid to them? Okay. Someone's interested in that. And also we have one asking that our government, they believe our government is not doing much to address this. Good morning, UBC, thanks for the discussion. Well, I didn't get your number, your name, thanks for watching. And we have good morning, Robert. I am Helen in Kakira. Thanks for the show. What must be done for safety of the girls and boys in Saudi Arabia? What's the number of Njazi company? Please don't call on this line. Let's just send a WhatsApp message or something like that. Here, what a person who is at liberty to choose his or her own life path decides what's to join. Okay, this is a bit very, please let's make these messages short. Kindly make it short. Because my brother, you've sent a very long message that I may not be able to read. Now you have, hello, I'm Ojok Simon from Gulu City. I would like to know how someone can get to work. I think get a job in the Middle East. There's someone saying, good morning, thanks so much for the program. At least you have given me some hope, because my wife is also there in Abu Dhabi. Okay, thank you for, please don't call, you're making it very hard for me to read the messages if you're calling on this line. Kindly assist us. It is only for sending a text or a WhatsApp message. Thank you. Then I think coordination is the main issue here. Bruno from Namungona. And we also have another one coming in. How do you manage girls with excuses, work that complain? Some are taken to serve in different homes, even divided apart.
Right, Robert. Thank you for thank you, viewers, for these good questions. First of all, Robert, I'll begin with the very first question. I think it was from Bruno, if I have not forgotten. Yes, it's true. We have an embassy there, and yes, the government approved last year having labor attachés there, but they're not yet there, unfortunately. Government processes are long, they are lengthy, but I know they will be there. But on top of that, we also need labor officers from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development to handle those practical day-to-day issues. So we need both. So the other one is an extra layer. Then, Robert, there was a question on, the very last question was, how do we deal with girls
who have lost, I think, interest? Who
have lost interest, yeah. Truth of the matter is that, like I've mentioned, every company has its own policy. For me, I've told you, I just arrange their repatriation and then bring them back to Uganda. Yes, there is a cost implication, but I mean, what do you do if someone has lost interest, Robert? You just, find a way of bringing them back home. And I've done many of those. But also, Robert, on the issue of how do we get to know, the right or wrong companies to approach if you want to go and work abroad. I think that was a question from Ojok. Ojok, what you need to do, you said you're in Gulu City. Kindly go and see your resident city commissioner or your district internal security officer or DISO. They have this information. But when you happen to come in Kampala, please visit the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, right behind the Central Police Station here in Kampala, or you can visit our offices as the Uganda Association of External Recruitment Agencies. We are located next to Hotel Africana on BMK House, level 4. You can get all this information, or visit the website of the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. You'll find all this information, or the External Employment Management Information System website. It's called EMIS. It's on the internet as well. You can access all this information, and you'll be able to see all the licensed companies.
Now let me take you through yet other questions here. Yeah. We have UBC ask when people go there, do they stay with their passports or are they removed? That is from Pato. Pato, thank you for watching. And he also says, UBC, that man is talking like everything is right on their side. Yet even sometimes those companies do not bother about our daughters. The man is lying. People are dying. Can't you see that? Well, that is from our viewers. Then one says, CEO, please, can you give us, your company contact? Trying to look at those that really, Good morning, thanks for the show. I need to know how easy can my sister come back before finishing her contract, because she has worked now 1 year, but she wishes to come back. Patrick in Entebbe. Another one coming in is I'm Regan from Mupunde. Can I please know other countries that they can export labor? Other countries, I think, for particular domestic workers, if there is any other country there. Then, we have one. I don't know why you did, but let's. I mean, they don't know what exactly happens. It simply believes you don't know. Then Baleka Moses Chireka, please, let's send. We know much as we have Uganda. Some of the messages I may not read if they are too, but he says that he talks about the character of the people in that country, and of his also says their faith maybe just not match up to what Ugandans do. And finally, let me just read, I think, this one and end it at that, who says, Robert, there is still so much that government must do to save our people. My relative was taken to Saudi Arabia last, that is yeah, but since that time has not been paid for some month, and when we tried to raise the complaint to the company, the response was not given to us. That is Sarah. Let's end at those ones for now.
Right. I'll begin with the very last one. Sarah, kindly reach out to the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and report that case. If the Ugandan company that actually took her is not responding, kindly go to the ministry or go to our association offices. Like I said, Uwera, BMK House, level 4 next to Hotel Africana. They'll be able to engage this particular company and see how your sister will get her salaries paid. Then also, Robert, there was a question on the issue of, can't we see people dying and all that stuff. Robert, I don't want to really go personal, but there are very many things that we usually say as Ugandans, exciting things we say. But if you look at the issues that have been around labor externalization, truth of the matter is that we've made some very positive strides. And yes, this is not pointing fingers. We need to work as a team. Those gaps, for example, we said that we need to have a technical committee from Uganda and a technical committee from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia when we were signing this labor bilateral agreement. Unfortunately, those technical committees did not do what they were supposed to do because they were not, So for me, that is where the conversation should be. And like I said, and I want to inform Ugandans, for us as recruitment agencies, yes, there could be some who are not doing the right thing, but report them to the authorities, and they will be able to be handled. But when you say that they just simply don't know what happens there, I think for me it's a bit below the belt, because,
and one said when they raise these complaints,
yes,
all companies speak like you, but once they're in trouble, they pay a deaf ear or they don't assist them.
Use I'm on national television, use my own company, Jersey Limited, as a case in point. I want you to tell me that you reported this case and we didn't do anything about it. Please, Robert, let them reach out to your information desk and I'll be glad to pick it up.
Well, Ashe, in the interest of time, let me just have your concluding remarks regarding the topic of the day.
Right. Thank you, Robert, but I think there was someone who was asking for our number. Okay, I won't give the number because it's not an advertisement, but I'll tell you. Jersey Limited is located at Machindye, Chizungu Road, plot 1154. Or you can Google, or you should be able to locate where we are. Thank you very much. Ugandans, let us go through proper channels. Robert, I've had someone mention that his wife is in Abu Dhabi. Robert, we don't have a bilateral agreement with the United Arab Emirates to have domestic workers work there. So to me, that is a trafficking case. Ugandans, we are only allowed to have domestic workers work in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. No other country. Anyone who is taken to work in any other country apart from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to do domestic work has been trafficked. It is illegal. It is very, very dangerous. And the repercussions, once things go wrong, are heavy. So Ugandans, I caution you on that. Thank you, Robert.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. Ashe, thank you for being part of this show this morning. Fellow Ugandans, one thing that is very clear, first I want to call upon government. This should have been done yesterday. Let's have attaches from government deployed in Saudi Arabia. Because when a government official is very different from an agent of a labor agency. 2, Ugandans, there's so much good that comes from these domestic workers. Let's ensure we work towards perfecting this source of employment rather than bring it to an end. Because much as we have these cases, we also have a number of successful stories. And what matters is there are other countries that are also doing the same thing and praying day and night to have opportunity. We don't want to be kicked out of Saudi Arabia, neither do we want to see our girls continue to suffer or die in Saudi Arabia. Let's work together to perfect this. See you tomorrow, God willing. Ruben is here to take you through sports updates.